everybody that's watching tonight. It's my pleasure to have my good friend Steve Lange on, second trombone of the Boston Symphony. Steve, great to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Steve, just to be fair, we've known each other since like the early 90s. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. When did we I remember gosh, when did you come into IU? Was it 92 or 93? Are we this
94, and we
94?
played in a quintet for like a little bit.
That's right. That's right. I remember that. Those are good days. The IU days.
I know. I seem to remember, as I'm telling this in front of people, that there's a party at my house. I don't know if you remember this, and I made an audition list. Remember this? And it said, please be prepared to drink the following, but I put orchestral, like certain names, not
Uh,
Truchka and Miller Five and
Miller 5. That was a good one.
Heineken Laban and
That's a good one.
uh, oh, Rite of Schlitz. I was happy with that one. So it was good. It was good.
They,
But
they didn't taste great, I have to tell you.
I
No, I'm
only,
just kidding.
I only saw you with lemonade. So that's it. But
Good
tell
times, good
people a little
times.
about how you started. When did you start playing trombone?
Started in sixth grade. Well, I took the interview in fifth grade. It's a group in Dallas, and they have a strong music program in Texas, as I think a lot of folks know. Of course, when you live there, you don't know that. You just kind of just accept it. Yeah, so I started in sixth grade, and I had some really great teachers. I had Lynn Jackson, and she was the first person that really made it really a lot of fun. So, um, you look back and you go, how do you get here? How do you get to where we are right now and having this conversation? And you look back at all these times where you could have taken, one fork this way, and they seem like very innocuous decisions, right? I mean, the fact that he even picked trombone of all the instruments really happened mainly because I just was, I don't know if I was angry or rebellious or something, but I remember, and I love my parents, and of course, I wanted to please them, but for some reason something wasn't right that day. I tried to play piano earlier in third grade, and that didn't work out. And said, "Oh, I'll promise, Mom, I'll pick another instrument someday." And then maybe that had something to do with it, or maybe I heard that it's either you're going to be in band or in choir, and if you're in choir, then you have to sing a solo in front of your classmates, and that did not go over well with me, with my sixth grade self.
Mhm.
So I just picked the biggest instrument that there was, and that's happened to be the trombone. And then I got hooked up with a really great trombone instructor, and that person's name is Joe Dixon, who's still teaching. I still consider him a mentor of mine and a teacher of mine. Um, my son takes trombone lessons with him over Zoom. So he's in the San Antonio area now. And but even still, after that first year of playing, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue. Um, the first chair test, we had chair tests. Did you have chair tests?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we had a chair test in sixth grade, and I came out seventh out of eight or nine,
Is this
maybe.
is this
I
your
don't know.
is this the Rocky Balboa part of your life? Or
I don't know. Yeah, I was like, I don't, I didn't want to be seventh or eighth. So then I started taking lessons with Mr. Dixon, and I started, and
yeah.
you just get better, and I guess I was a little competitive back then. I don't know. Maybe I still am, but but then after that, I was more of a sports guy. I still kind of am in some ways, and in many ways. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah.
But I played a lot of baseball and tennis, and dabbled in golf, and just a lot of different sports, soccer, a lot of things, um, and I really wanted to play football. So my parents, they weren't too keen on it, but they said, well, when you go to seventh grade, your junior high, I was going into junior high, I could play football if I wanted to. okay, well, it's football or band, and here's one of those like decisions in the grand scheme of life. I could play football or I could play band. And I had a really fun time in band. And I'll never forget the yellow registration card where you've got all the things that are typed out that you have to take, but then you've got these electives, and the last block of the day was either going to be band or football. And I had switched my decision so many times in pencil in that box that it had worn through. You could see, you could hold up to the light and see through it. That was the level of conflict that I had. And I remember just before I turned it in, I switched it to band real quick. So, you think about that, it's like that was a really important decision.
Yeah, it was a huge decision.
so
It
so
changed
the
everything.
and then it kept on, and so yeah, so that's why I'm here.
That's why you're
that
here.
that's why I'm here.
Hey, did you take lessons with him all the way through high school?
All the way through all the way through junior high. And but even then I remember there was a time, I said, do I continue playing? And then I would think, there's next year, if I stay in band, there's this trip to Wet and Wild. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna stay in band for that. And so it was a little bit like that for me.
Yeah.
Although, and maybe that is, maybe other folks have similar stories, or maybe you find some friends, and it was like that for me in the early years. And then got to high school, and somehow they placed me in the symphonic wind ensemble. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to do this. Maybe I just want to, I don't know. But then I went ahead and did it. But then I had to have this really big conversation with my band director and then the baseball coach. How can I do both? And it was challenging. It was really challenging. And my son, who's 14, is had to have some of those conversations. So it's been kind of like whoa, I remember back when it's the same thing. Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of how things worked out. I was able to do marching band in the fall, and uh, and baseball in the spring. But we still had, I was going back and forth, and I showed up to trombone, low brass sectionals, and full baseball, regalia with extra percussion instruments, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we had a good time with that.
Oh, you were protected.
I was very protected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, though, Dixon's a great trombone teacher, and he's still teaching your son. I mean, what kind of thing?
Yeah.
How did he get you to progress so well once you started taking lessons? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, he was like, and I've told him this, but he was just like this extra father figure, and certainly it was just like I mean, I have great parents, I have a great dad,
Yeah.
but he was just kind of like someone else to kind of, when you can't be told some things by your dad because you're just like, oh, okay, there was Mr. Dixon right there, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I've heard this before, but for some reason right now at my time in life, I'll listen to you because it's only 1 hour a week, And it's like, okay, I'll listen, and he was great at it. He was just a great teacher for me. Obviously, I think I have to tell you, um, one of the things that was, I look back on with my teachers, with the exception of Joe Alessi,
Yeah.
um, uh, Mr. Dixon and Mr. Brown, Keith Brown, we'll talk about, I guess, in a minute.
Okay.
They didn't play for me. They didn't model their instrument for me. And so I I mean that's something right there.
Yeah.
And because they never said this is how it should sound.
Yeah.
They never did that.
Yeah.
They would talk about it, and Mr. Dixon would talk about the qualities of a great sound, how it should sound effortless, or how it should sound buoyant here, or what a beautiful slur could sound like in terms of just how effortless it just glides from note to note. Or it was just the way he's just the most amazing communicator I've ever been around.
Yeah.
you know, and he could just do this, and he could relate to, you know, an immature seventh, eighth grade version of my, well, I'm still immature, but I mean, I really, I could really relate to it, you know, and I really wanted to be better, you
Yeah.
know, so he was very, very good at that. But I remember, you know, there's another moment that he did for me, and I'll never forget this, where I was home with the chicken pox. All right. I had the chicken pox. Do you ever have the chicken pox?
I did have, I don't remember
Oh,
that, but I know I had.
oh yeah. Well, I remember it. It was seventh grade. It was, you know, really awkward stage in life anyways, you know, seventh grade, right?
Stage actually.
What's that?
It's kind of, that was definitely a rough era.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of us, you know, like seventh, eighth grade, you know, yeah, but it was a really awkward stage. And, but he came over, you know, he literally drove over and brought me 3 cassette tapes. Maybe some of your listeners don't know what those are. I can get a couple, but they're little tapes, and you put them in a Walkman, and I had a Walkman, and I just sat there and listened to it, and it was 3 tapes of Christian Lindbergh. And he said to me, he's like, you know, just listen to these. Just listen to these while you're under the weather. Just listen, see what you think. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, oh, this is what a trombone sounds like. And the first thing that I heard on that was Christian Lindbergh playing Flight of the Bumblebee. He's like, that this is a trombone. How does a trombone do this? You know, and so it really got me thinking, okay, so this is possible. Does this mean if I'm a professional, I can play that? No, I still can't play that. But anyway,
Yeah.
but you know, it was really cool. And I just remember that's what I was listening to really early on. And maybe I had a hard time going to sleep, but I was always listening to that going to sleep. So I still, you know, listen.
Yeah.
Do you listen to music going to
I
sleep?
do
I do.
go to sleep sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I remember thinking, oh, if I listen to it when I'm really sleepy, I can relate to a piece of music this way. If I'm really amped up and I'm like going down a ski slope, I can listen to the same thing and get different vibes from it. So I don't know if you feel that way, but anyway, that's how, you know, I would learn from this and be like, okay, I really want to, there's this piece that he plays. I think I can play it. Let me see if I can play it. And by the time I was a senior, I could play one of the pieces on that tape, which that's cool, right? I mean, you know, you listen to something for a long period of time, you're like, can I do that? And that's kind of how trombone you know, started the wheels in motion, you know, for me before I went off to college.
So how did you wind up going to Indiana?
Yeah. So, yeah, Indiana. I didn't know anything about IU. Those are the days where there was no internet. So this was 1991, 1992. Internet wasn't really around yet. Email, definitely not.
Yeah.
And it was like word of mouth. You know, where's a good place to go? My whole family went to the University of Texas. My older sister went to Texas. My dad went to Texas, you know, and it's like, hey, that's where I'm going to go.
Right.
I mean, where else am I going to go? Although I did make a trip to TCU, made another trip. Where else did I go to look at? Georgetown University. You know, there was just some places I was looking at. But I think I got wind of Indiana from, there were 2 other older trombone players in the band who were really good. I looked up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is the bass trombonist in the Milwaukee Symphony, John Tevenet. And I just loved his sound, and you know, he had a really great approach, and so he went to Indiana. And the other trombone player, the tenor trombone player, Josh Blankenship,
Mm-hmm.
he also went to IU as well. It's like, well, IU must be a great place to go if they're going there. And so they went there, and they would play orchestral excerpts. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know what those are, but they sounded really cool. You know, they would play, and it just sounded neat, you know, and they would be, and later come to find out, what is that? That's Brahms 2. Brahms, what does 2 mean? You know, like I didn't know what Brahms 2, what does that mean? You know, like that's how like, you know, ignorant I was back then. I think all of us are at some point, you know, when you're in high school. And but they showed the excerpt books, and you know, and I was like, oh, who's Keith Brown? Did Keith Brown write these? No, dumbass. These are the compose, you know, I mean, that's, you know, I was the young kid. So So anyway, so that's how I got into it. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, what about IU? Really? Are you serious? That's so far. That's really north. Do you really want to go up there? And so he was a great dad, and encouraged me to go up there and audition. So I auditioned, and I just remember being an MA 452, which you and I both know that room very well. And there was Keith Brown and Dee Stewart and Ed Anderson there, listening along. And I don't know if it was fate. I think I don't. Mr. Dixon, knew Keith Brown and thought that would be a good fit, and it was a great fit.
Yeah.
It was a great fit, and come to find out, Mr. Brown was a fanatical sports guy. As a matter of fact, most of his, when I got there, people would call him Coach Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Did you ever call? I never called him Coach Brown, but everyone knew him as Coach Brown. But I always called him Mr. Brown. But anyway,
a coach thing happened. I heard it.
Yeah, and I mean, so come to find out, he played a lot of baseball. He was a very, very good baseball player when he grew up in Colorado, and when he was in the Metropolitan Opera, he organized a softball team called they were the original Mets, the New York Mets, and actually not the original Mets, but actually they got written up in Sports Illustrated, as kind of for fun and really hilarious. So but that's the kind of person. And he also had a home plate. So did you ever see this, Mark?
I never saw this.
So he had a home plate. You would step over it going into a studio, and then you would step on home plate going out of the studio. And it was symbolic for him that, no matter how bad the lesson is, you're going to step on home plate and score. So yeah, it was great. He was perfect for me because I identified coming out of high school more as a baseball player than a musician, more than a trombone player. But yet I was doing music.
Yeah. And he was, obviously a very musical guy. He was a fine conductor as well.
Yes.
Did we play Bruckner 7 with him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
That's right. Yeah.
Chops are still reeling from that one. Yeah.
I thought it was fun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super fun, and super fun to have my teacher up there conducting, so he never picked on me, which was nice, but he could have. I promise he could have.
Yeah. Well, what were the lessons like with him other than the scoring on home plate? What kind of, because you also mentioned he wasn't playing at that time. He was of course in Philadelphia, and obviously.
Yeah, you look at his resume. He was in the New York Brass Quintet, he was in the Philadelphia Orchestra, he was in the Metropolitan Orchestra. He went down, did the Casals Festival, and taught all over. He was a second trombonist to visit China and give master classes out there. He was a real force in his career, and I was really lucky to be with him. I was at IU for 5 years because I couldn't figure out where I was or what I wanted to do. I just didn't know. So I spent an extra year there, and we both left at the same time. So I got to raid his file cabinet. I've got a bunch of stuff of his that mean a lot to me. And but what was he like as a teacher? He didn't play. He wasn't playing. His con trombone, sat on the piano, and he just had this real boisterous low voice, that we come in, and there would be lessons I wouldn't play. Yeah. And we would just sit there and just talk sports, and somehow there would be some way to transfer it back into music. And I think I don't know, we just spoke the same language. We were both sports fanatics at heart. And he would try to pull out the baseball analogies and and those were really fun, because he knew I played second base, and he was like, oh well, with this biche etude, you have to play the ball, don't let that ball play you. I mean, I mean, I understood all that,
Right.
which was pretty cool.
Yeah. And
I mean, we laugh about it, but it worked.
of course, obviously, yeah, no question. And it also helped to have a tremendous amount of great low brass colleagues there at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
the crossover was there's a I know you know the picture I'm talking about where you look and you see who was there and you're like, wow, that's a lot of people with jobs.
Yeah, we had a great time. We had a great time, and there were some great people there. I was in a quartet, with John Tavenet and Josh Blankenship and Ken Preuss, who now does a lot of musical theater. Yeah, I don't know if you keep in
Great
touch with
band.
Ken,
Yeah,
but yeah, and then Nathan Zagantz and we came in together, and we were just best buddies. We were just best friends, and we did so many different things together. And y- you know, I mean, I've known him for so long, and I mean, I go back to our first or second year, and we played on an intramural basketball team together. And we were the two point guards, and oh my gosh, Nate was he's such a superstar athlete. But
and
we were
because I mean, nobody's gonna care about this half of the story except it's kind of gross because we played basketball at the Hyper one day
yes.
in the summer, and somebody threw a pass and I caught it and it bent my finger backwards,
Ooh.
and I was like, Nate's like, don't stop playing, he tells me not to be,
Yeah.
and I popped the finger back in place and kept playing,
Oh, no.
and then I thought, what an idiot, but this is actually the best thing I could have done, but yeah, I mean,
Oh.
so yeah, Nate, if you're watching, we know you're very competitive.
Oh, well, Nate was there when I tore my ACL. We were in the playoffs, and every single guy on the opposing team was taller. Even their point guard was taller than our center, and we had zero chance. I mean, it was over from the tip off. But I remember thinking, "Oh, I'm in the right position to get this rebound," and I went up and got this rebound, and I came down, heard the pop. Great, that's it.
Nice.
And yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So that happened. So he was there for that.
And there were also guys like Francisco Rosario and
Oh yeah,
you know
Luis Fred,
Luis Fred.
Luis. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and Chris Dirth.
Ray,
And John Raycraft, of course. What a story! What a story with John. Of course, I was on the committee that hired him in St. Louis, and that was really cool. That was really cool. It was really that was exciting. Yeah, but yeah, when Luis and Francisco came, they were like, um, there's just a small moment in time where I thought, oh, cool, I might have a chance to play principal in one of these IU orchestras. And then they came.
yeah,
So, and they were so advanced. I looked up to them big time and learned a ton from them. And especially well, actually both of them, they were both equally, like, they mentored me. I mean, it was really cool. We did Mahler 3. I remember we did a Mahler 3. We did 2 concerts of Mahler 3. It was supposed to be recorded. It was a big scandal. I don't know. Do you remember all this?
I do
It,
remember
it
this.
was like some
Yeah,
big scandal was going to get released. And then, so it was like a great moment. And I was playing second trombone on that. And just hearing Francisco's, leadership on that was at the time, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And, hearing Luis play his recital, and he played the Creston and all this stuff. I mean, it's just really,
and then there was
yeah.
somebody named Toby Off that came in toward
I
the
don't, who?
yeah.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, 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 yeah. That guy. Now, yeah, Toby, of course, when he came in, he transferred in. I think we overlapped, I want to say 1 year. It may have been 2. I can't, yeah, but we developed a great friendship. And So yeah, when the Boston job opened and Toby, obviously Toby was there, I was like, I got to do this. I love Toby. I loved when we were there, and I still like him too now.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah,
still a good guy. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it was a good time, and I have very fond memories of IU for sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and I've always told students about you because what people may or may not pick up on this is you're really organized. So, like, well, you gave the appearance because I remember you
Okay.
the first person I knew that had a date book, and like, you were always like very consistent about like you came to class. That was step one, and then and I think you knew what you were going to practice, and you weren't like a nut job about it. You're like, I'm going to get this stuff done, and then I'm going to go be a normal student, you know.
Oh
And
my gosh.
but it was always, but I always thought you were like very organized. I thought I should do that, and then I kept thinking that it didn't happen, but I kept thinking that that would be a good idea, and you know, but then
Well, though those are the years. I'll tell you the reason why I kept that date book, and things did fall through the cracks, but uh, I don't know. There was an entrepreneurial of spark for me, and talked to my dad about it a lot. And so he helped me out with this. I bought a DAT machine. It's a digital audio tape machine and a microphone, and the idea was to record myself. But I sold it to my dad that I could record recitals,
which you did, pretty
which I
much.
did, yeah. And I made I was able to, I think I paid my dad back. If I don't remember now, but
Yeah,
but but yeah, I mean, that alone was probably the greatest thing that I could have done at IU. Well, I'm not, it was one of the great things I could have done, not knowing what I was doing at the moment, but looking back,
yeah,
because I recorded at least 150, maybe 200 recitals,
yeah.
and it was a whopping $35 a pop. And I would take that DAT, come home and transfer it to cassette tape.
Yeah.
And it was just a, hey, here's, if you didn't want to, deal with the IU folks, and they were kind of sketchy at the time. No one knew. There was reports, whatever, it was expensive. And
Yeah.
so, hey, here you go. And I learned so much just by going to these recitals. I learned mic placement. I learned, I just heard all these recitals. Learned how to appropriately gain the input volume, uh, everything. And I still tell some of my students this, is that was, because just to have that ear for recording other people, not just yourself. Of course, I recorded myself a lot too,
Yeah.
but that's when you really, I got over the oh, that's what I sound like phase pretty quickly, because
Yeah.
I wanted the truth, and that's what the recorder did for me. But one of my students, I was telling, he's like, have you ever heard a vocalist sing a Bordoni etude? Because see, I actually recorded a singer, and she sang a Bordoni vocalist. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, of course that's what you're supposed to do, but when you're a college student, you don't know any better. That it was eye-opening to just hear it.
Yeah.
Cool
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know, just things you remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, you were very entrepreneurial and had posters everywhere, and I
Tried.
I still have some of those DAT tapes somewhere actually.
I'm sure I recorded I recorded your recital. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Funny.
black spot in my memory, but yeah.
Well,
But and so from IU, of course, you went to Juilliard
yep.
and studied with somebody named Joe Alessi.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that? Now that was a contrast from Mr. Brown, of course, because obviously he was going to be doing a lot of lessons. Can you talk about that? How that happened and what the juxtaposition was?
Yeah. So, and I finished my time at Indiana. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Melissa, of course, you know Melissa.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there trying to figure out what to do, and that was another fork in the road. Like, oh shit, what are we gonna do here? And we had met each other through the through the fondness of arts administration, and we took an arts administration class together. And I thought, this is what I should do. I should do arts administration, because we all know that being a professional musician, well, there's no guarantee, and
Yeah.
you just don't know. And I didn't want to, at the time, I didn't want to teach. Um, Boy, things have changed, but by the time I just couldn't see myself as a teacher, and partly because I'd had such great teachers that I didn't think I could,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't think I could do it justice. So I only auditioned for Juilliard, and I sent about 30 letters to different arts administration schools, and thinking that that's what I was going to do. And made it to the finals in some of those programs, and one of them was with the Cincinnati Conservatory that Cincinnati Conservatory, that I had a program. And the person leading that program, upon we were talking and talking, and she just looked at me and she said, "You're going to get into Juilliard. You're going to go there." It was hilarious. I was like, "Oh, how do you know this?" So I guess that's the way it went. So I got into Juilliard, and thought it was awesome, but also knew that it's 2 years. You still don't know if you're going to make it. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't a pessimist. I was definitely an optimist, but it's like, I'm just going to give this a go and see how it works. It's 2 years of my life, and 2 years of Juilliard are going to be beneficial for me no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So, I went ahead and did that. And that's when everything just kind of became focused. I didn't have to worry about accounting or finance or macroeconomics. I mean, it was just 100% music, and it was like, eureka! I love this, and let's just. I remember thinking that this was just so much fun, and now whether or not I was going to make it or not, it didn't matter. I was having a lot of fun. So, except for the ear training class. Oh my goodness. But anyway, that you have your ups and downs, and I knew that. But I learned a lot from that class.
Yeah.
Mary Anthony Cox. Those of if anyone
And we actually
knows that class.
And I should say we had Mary Winterstrom at
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and Jerry Hay is watching right now.
Oh, nice.
And I think we just missed his son at IU, Andrew. It just came. He was there not long after us. But I remember when she retired, he talked about how she would play things in other keys because some people had perfect pitch. But I don't think we were concerned necessarily.
No.
But go back to your Juilliard ear training class.
Yeah. Oh, that was so hard. But I learned a ton, because when we were at IU, I think they've changed it now, but it was movable numbers.
Yeah.
That's how it wasn't solfege, it was movable numbers. And then you get to Juilliard, and it was fixed do. And I remember just like, oh God, oh my God. No, I resist. And I just had to get, really adopt the new. And she would have us get in front of everyone, and she'd have a little index card, and she's like, "Okay, we're in treble clef now. Here we go." And you're just going to say the, do, mi, re, you just go all the way through, and you're just like,
Yeah.
curse it, and it wasn't uncommon to slip an S word or an F word in there. And she, now, honey, now that's focus now. I mean, it was amazing. So, so yeah, that's what school's like. And it was very different from IU as a conservatory, but I loved it. Thought it was great.
So, and obviously, Alessi's one of the great trombone players ever, and you're hearing that. And how did that change your sound concept when you were around Joe so much?
How did sound concept? Well, I, when you hear someone pick up their instrument in a lesson and just show you how it's done, that was a huge deal for me, because no one did that for me beforehand, and I'd never heard someone do anything like that within 3 or 4 feet of me, ever, up until I started studying with him. Yeah, it was really pretty amazing. So, obviously, I wouldn't be here without him. I mean, I wouldn't be here without any of my teachers, but for him, he was special because eh, he was also a sports guy too, but he doesn't talk about it much. He also played baseball. So there was kind of like, during my time playing, on the baseball team in high school, I had some tough coaches, some folk, some coaches who really gave it to, yelled in my face, and, it's like, oh, it toughened me up. And there were times where he got in my face, got in a lot of people's faces. And, honestly, I was used to that. I was ready for it. I was like, all right, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. And I kind of loved it. I was like, all right, I don't want to, I don't want any sugarcoating right now. I just want to know what is going on. How do I get better? And he did that. So that's what was so valuable, being there. And I look back at my time there. I was really lucky to have that experience, and to have such a great school, and have, Joe be my, mentor and teacher. And then, I go into all the concerts every week. So just hearing that, this idea that you are what you eat. You've got such a great concept of sound from what you hear every day, every week. And it's like, okay. And it was always pushing me, and I needed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it obviously worked out because you had a few audition successes right out of school, right? So if I remember correctly, there was a Marine Band audition first. Am I right about that?
Yep. Yeah, there was that. And yeah, I took several auditions that didn't go anywhere. I remember auditioning for LA and Philadelphia and Kansas City, San Antonio, when it didn't work out the first time. There's some others too. I think there was one in Rhode Island. I mean, it's like you just take these auditions, you don't know, but you try to learn from them. And then um embouchure changes throughout all of this, and then
Yeah.
and then, I mean, just things happen, and then finally something clicks. You're like, oh, Marine Band. And so that was a cool day. That was a really, really cool day. My brother-in-law, Mark Latimer, he plays in the Marine Band, so I thought that was really cool. And and then the principal trombonist at the time, Brian Bourne, he graduated from my high school. So there were a lot of really, really cool connections to have. And then, yeah, Melissa, she had been offered an assistant personnel manager of the Kennedy Center at the time. So that day was like, it was like, yes.
Perfect.
Yes. And then 3 weeks later, San Antonio came around. I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and, oh, let's try this. Let's see how it goes. And then Colin Williams won that job,
Hmm.
who is also a peer at Juilliard. And I knowing it's so weird when you look back. It's another one of those tough decisions that you have to make.
Yeah.
And I don't think either decision was wrong. But I didn't know a whole lot about the San Antonio Symphony. I didn't know that they were having trouble financially. As I tried to do my research, but I ended up picking. I just said, I got to do orchestral music. That's my love. So that's kind of how that went.
And you were there for just 1 year, though, right?
Just 1 year.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. And then, yeah, kind of a. It's a very, very kind of. I'll tell this story, but it's interesting how things find their way,
Yeah.
in life. And it's just you're just a small part of a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And the reason that job opened in St. Louis, um and how things could have changed the landscape could have changed. And there was a gentleman who was a student at Juilliard named Mark Horner, and Mark, I met him a couple of times. He seemed, but I didn't know him very well.
Yeah.
He had graduated a couple years prior and had been playing in the San Antonio Symphony along with Matt Vaughn.
Mhm.
And so the Philadelphia audition happened, and Matt won. And so there was a second spot. Well, Mark, there was a awful tragedy with Mark. And I don't know if you heard about
Oh,
Mark, but Mark was killed in a really terrible situation.
I do remember this.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go
You have
into
to go there.
it, but it was such a terrible situation, and it was very sad. And so suddenly there were two spots open in San Antonio, which honestly, that was the. I mean, I didn't win the San Antonio audition. Colin did. So but they hired me because they needed an extra trombone player there. So prior to that, Mark was in the finals. He was in the final two in St. Louis for the principal audition.
Right.
And Tim Myers, they offered the job to Tim Myers. So then there was the resulting vacancy from Tim moving up from assistant principal trombone to principal. So there was a vacancy there. I mean, just kind of like that's the way that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I got to San Antonio, there were, that was the year after, and it was a situation, it was tough.
Yeah. But then you moved to St. Louis, where you
Moved to St. Louis, and moved to St. Louis, and they had a spot there, and of course Melissa's from St. Louis, so my wife, so she knew exactly where we were gonna move to, and so we moved there, and I'm like, okay, sure, let's move here, and that started just an amazing 10-year career in St. Louis.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about some of the colleagues you had in St. Louis too, because if I'm right, Pandolfi would have still been principal horn, right, at the beginning, and obviously Susan Slaughter, and then your colleague.
Yeah.
You could talk about those three people and kind of what you heard from them, and maybe what thoughts go through your head when you think about them.
Sure. Well, Roland was only there we only overlapped for a year.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I remember from him was playing in opera theater, and I remember going over to his house a couple times. We played in a brass quintet, I think. And so we met at his house, and of course there were, lead pipes and parts and everywhere, and he was the guy that would bring the torch to work, and I don't like this lead pipe, and a minute later, like a new lead pipe, and it wasn't just like duct taped on, it was soldered on. So he was that kind of guy. He was also the kind of guy that took his playing very seriously all the way until his retirement. And I think one of the last concerts, if not the last concert I think it was the last concert we played Bruckner for of that season, or one of the last concerts.
Right.
And he just absolutely crushed it. It was awesome. It was so cool. We were just like, you gotta be kidding me,
Wow.
Yeah. And honestly, the same thing with Susan as well. Boy, did I learn a lot from her. Not just from her, her playing, but just personally, and how she dealt with her colleagues. Just one of the most amazing colleagues you could have. I was very fortunate to have her as a colleague, and there would be those times where I would sit in the principal chair and I'd sit next to her, and there were just great moments. And then there were also moments where we'd have Hans Vonk, when he was suffering from ALS, and we would I just remember the time when Maestro just had a tough time in one of the pieces, and we had to stop. And it's like you don't always remember all the good times. Sometimes you remember like the moments that just make you, yeah, you're gonna see these things. And so yeah, with that. And but a lot, just Susan was just a great. And I talked to her not too long ago, what she had to deal with in her career, uh, and fascinating story with her. And just she's just great. And she served on committees. We served on an audition committee together, to revise audition guidelines. It's because we wanted our process to be, seen as obviously very, very fair. And uh, we wanted to attract great musicians to the St. Louis Symphony. And we wanted to make sure that people could come in good faith and be you know
Who was
listened to based on their talents.
who was the bigger baseball fan, you or Susan?
You know what, she may have definitely taken the cake on that one, especially when it came to the Cardinals. Holy cow. Yeah. So yeah, and we would talk baseball. And of course, those right at the beginning, it was like the 2001 season. 2000 is when I started, but that's right when Albert Pujols made his
Yeah.
vault to, and super fun. And I wasn't even a Cardinals fan at all until I think that first year when they had us go play the national anthem.
Right.
And that's when, yep, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Chipper Jones right on the third baseline playing catch. And yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, I'll do this again. So that's when it kind of hit, and became a Cardinals fan.
Yeah.
Melissa had something to do with it too. She pulled me along.
Well, of course, a little influence there.
Yeah.
So you're there 10 years, and then John, and you had Jonathan Raycraft come in toward the end of
Yeah,
your.
and I have to say, the other folks that were really, really influential for me were Tim Myers, the principal trombone player, who's just one of the, he's got such a humble stature. He doesn't, but we I learned so much from him. I learned because he led by doing, not, and
Yeah.
one of the great players that he was just one of the great principal trombone players that he just doesn't put himself out there, but he's one of the great principal trombone players. And then Jerry Pagano, the bass trombone player, who we've become great friends. We still talk. And we had a great thing going. And then when John came, it was fantastic. And we did a lot of trombone quartets,
Yeah.
and we recorded a CD. And those were great memories.
Yeah. Well, you're in some pretty healthy situations from St. Louis, and then of course going into Boston.
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about the leap, because you were in St. Louis for long enough to where somebody could have said, "I think I'll just stay here." But then
totally.
right?
Yeah.
But then you got to swing the bat, so to speak, one more time.
Good one. Good job there. Yeah. All right, keep them coming. Yeah. So how old was I? Was I 30, 35? I'm 47 now, so it was like 35. And the job came open for second trombone, and I remember thinking, I gotta try this. I gotta go for it. And so, leading up to it, I was really interested in the job, but I didn't know if I was running out of time. There's always great new players coming, who are really hungry and who don't have, who they're just practicing, and they're in school, and that's how I was. I mean, that was my job, was to get a job. And and my life had changed a little bit. I had a 3.5-year-old, and I had another one on the way. And so Melissa's pregnant, and the baby was due. The baby was born in January, and the audition was in March. So it was a very, very surreal period of time of working up the excerpts, being a dad, changing diapers, I mean, Bolero diaper, Ride of the Valkyries diaper,
Yeah.
whatever. It was just kind of one of those things that I had to deal with. But I think I think that was good for me because it put things in perspective.
Right. Right. Probably made your practice time a little more efficient too, I would imagine.
I think it did. I think it did. It just reiterated that the game of baseball, they say it's Yogi Berra said it's 90% mental and the other half is physical. So it's kind of the same way with a musician. It's all up here,
Yeah.
and if you really believe that, if you really have a good map in your brain of what it is that you want to project, it's going to happen. So most of my practicing during those weeks were
Up there.
mental rehearsals and mental performances and things like that.
Does that mean when you made the decision to not play football and play in the band that when you came to a fork in the road, you took it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yep, yep, yeah. And it wasn't a field goal post either. It was yeah, not that kind of fork.
No.
Yeah, I did not take that kind of fork. Yeah, that's funny.
But
Yep.
so, what do you remember about the audition itself for the BSO?
It's a really good question. People ask me that, and I'll say that I remember very little. It's because I'm a very I learned through my work at with Don Green's class at Juilliard to stay in the moment. He's got a whole system of how you do that, and I was hook, line, sinker in his class. And he wrote that Purple Performance Success book
Mhm.
during the year that I took his class.
Yeah.
So every week was another chapter,
Right.
sort of. It got, yeah. And so, but I learned to take auditions with that kind of mindset, and with the ADD that I believe I have. It's hard for me to focus in long spurts. I just didn't have I didn't have mental capacity to remember what happened, whether it was good or bad. And I think that was a good thing. And I think that's what I try to teach my students is you have to stay in the moment, whether it's good or bad, and you can't be looking too far forward either.
Yeah.
So by the time the BSO audition happened, I do remember making the choice to stand up for my solos and sitting down for the excerpts. I remember playing the Hindemith. I'm pretty sure I played the David too. But outside of that, there was just a list of excerpts, and I don't know. And I remember the final round. The final round was super fun. I remember playing across the stage, and the stage is tilted a little bit with the BSO's hall. Just a small grade, but I noticed it. But we were, facing across the stage, and it was it was screened, but then the screen came down for the final round. And I remember playing excerpts with Toby and Doug Yo being me, the bass trombone at the time. And yeah, I remember doing, what did we do? I remember playing the Grand Canyon Suite. I remember playing yeah, I remember the Sunrise thing. And then I remember the Bartok Miraculous Mandarin, the muted sword duel. I remember playing that with Toby.
Yep.
Yeah, some other things. And I just remember looking out at all these people in the BSO, just who are friends now, but I didn't,
Yeah.
there. And I remember Mike Roylance going, so okay, and after the audition, like, okay, well, you need to step up your attire. You need to go to Hugo Boss and get all your stuff. They were making fun of Toby because he was all into Hugo Boss at the time. Now he's moved on, of course, but to other things. But that was pretty funny.
And Ozawa was the music director at that time, right?
No, it was Levine.
Oh,
Yeah. And yeah, so that was really cool. It's just like seeing all these superstars, and that was a great moment. It
yeah.
was a great moment, and bittersweet too, because I loved my time in St. Louis. And for a while there I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do here? And another another difficult decision to make. And then when we moved to Boston, that was a big deal because we didn't know anything about Boston. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about where to go, where to live, nothing, and uh, I could write a book about our landlady in our first year, who went around in our when we were looking at, it was like the meeting you have, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, welcome, here's how to work things. And everything went wrong in that. And she was taking down all the serial numbers of all the appliances because making sure that we wouldn't steal them. It didn't start off good. Nope, did not start off well. So I could write a book about all this
Yeah.
stuff. It was so hilarious, and we still laugh about it.
But the job started off great because you're sitting next to Toby
Yeah,
and it's
yeah. Now sitting next to a friend and one hell of a player, Toby, and then on my right, and then a legend on my left, with Doug Yo. And Doug was, and he would say this, he's like, now I don't mean to be a mother hen, but he would start off that, and honestly, I needed that. I mean, just being so new, and it was great. It was great, to have such a great connection right off the bat.
yeah. Well, and that's pretty evident. I mean, obviously, he retired, and you've got Jim Markey playing bass trombone. I mean, I believe I remember when that audition happened. Your Facebook post said, "I'm just so happy."
Oh, you remember that? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was so happy. I just didn't know what to say, but I was, Jim, someone that I'd known for a long time, from when I was in school in New York and he was in the Philharmonic, and we're roughly the same age. Just to have someone like that to sit next to and learn from. And I mean, I really think I've got a great job, because I probably the best job, I think, because I've got two great players on either side of me that are stimulating to work with. And I learn so much every time I come in
Yeah.
and play with them, and we're at the point now, I guess we've been playing now for about 8 or 9 years, and we don't have to say a whole lot to each other,
Yeah.
but we kind of know what we're doing, and yet there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
And I've learned a ton.
Yeah.
And we're all three different people, but I love hanging out with them. So
Yeah. And and
fun.
and talk a little bit about the situation in the orchestra right now, because I mean, not the COVID situation, but I mean, you
Oh,
guys are really on a streak because you're in the middle of the Shostakovich cycle. There's some other things that could come down the pike. I don't think many people are recording as much as you guys are. What was the?
right.
Let me back up a step and ask, what was the excitement like when Nelson's came on board? How did that change the orchestra?
That was a big deal. So yeah, I came into the orchestra when Levine was still the music director, and we saw that kind of, oops, sorry, we saw that kind of, it just kind of fell apart, and
Yeah.
I felt lucky. I'll back up even more and just say
Yeah.
I felt really lucky to have worked with him a little bit. And but when Nelson's came in, uh, yeah, for me it was easy because uh I saw someone who just wanted to make music,
Yeah.
and he was doing it at the highest level, yet he was able to get the sound out of the orchestra, this excitement and exuberance. But he was so clear. I mean, it was, and he didn't have to say much. It's everything's, he's so nuanced with his left hand, and then he could be do something with his right hand, and you knew what he wanted. It was really it's really remarkable. And it's not like he'd been conducting his entire life. He's a trumpet player. He's a
That,
trumpet player. I mean, how come on. Come on.
it's inner brilliance. And he's good playing again too.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Oh, I lost the name of the there's a
Link.
big trumpet. Is the Lincoln? Yeah, yes. He played that, and it was great. I don't know how he did it. It was at Tanglewood, and it was just like, you're really going to do this? Oh, yeah, he really did that. Yep.
Hey, what does that do for an orchestra when the music director is going to step out? It's not like he was playing something easy like the violin. He was going to step out and
Yeah,
play the
that's
trumpet,
right.
right? I mean,
Thank you.
it's got to make you want to play for the guy when he does something.
Oh, yeah, and that's the cool thing about him. You want to play for him, and you want to give him what he wants. It's not, I mean, wow, and you're on the edge of your seat for all the right reasons,
Yeah,
and that's what's cool about him. And you could go up to him and talk to him, it's just, yeah, he's something else. And hopefully we'll have him for a very long time.
yeah.
We're really, really grateful to have him. And I mean, he's so young. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like you just hope.
I know you guys breathed a sigh of relief when he didn't go to Berlin. Like it was like when the new pope is picked out.
Yeah, I know. That's what it felt like. You're like, yeah, and he seems very loyal, and he had a great relationship with our management. Had a great relationship with Mark Volpe, whose last day was last Friday, and we ushered in a new CEO and president, Gail Samuel, which we're excited about. And the BSO did this exactly the right way, honoring him and welcoming. It was pretty awesome. So yeah, we're entering a new chapter, and I hope it. I'm sure it'll go well.
We'll talk about a little bit about some of the projects that you guys are doing right now because you're in the middle of the Shostakovich cycle. What was that like to know that you're going to be on DG when nobody's recording anymore like they used to when we were growing up? I mean,
I
that's
know. I know. Yeah, when I was really upset. When I was hearing this maybe 7-8 years ago, that all the recording has dried up. There's no why record anymore. All this stuff, and somehow it just started coming back when Andres joined, because they were interested in him. And so okay, great. He wanted to do the Shostakovich, and we actually also did all the Brahms symphonies too, and those were just. I mean, that was so fulfilling
yeah.
and so meaningful and so exciting to know that, hey, we're going to be doing. And Shostakovich, one of my favorite composers, grew up with just the visceral feeling that you get when you listen to Shostakovich, and we get to do it now. And
Yeah.
going back in the booth and listening back to certain sections of maybe the Ninth Symphony or the Eighth Symphony, and going, okay, yeah, we can tweak here. I mean, it was such a collegial thing, at least with our section and with the whole orchestra. We were, a lot of us would be back there. Hey, how can we do this? What do we need to do on the next take or whatever? But most of these were, I'm pretty sure all these in the next concert, they were all live concerts.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, these weren't. Yeah, everything that we've done has always been a live concert. We've never done a studio session.
Well, and they seem like such a great fit for Nelson's too because that stuff seems very personal to him, and I'm sure that comes out too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've learned a lot about Shostakovich, I guess, in the past couple of years.
Yeah. I think we just have a few more left, and I think then we'll be done, and then we'll be off to we've recorded some Strauss things that haven't come out yet, and I don't know what's next after that. Maybe Mahler. I don't know, but of
Yeah.
course, when he became the music director of the Gewandhaus, that was really cool too, because he has this vision of joining the orchestras. And so we started doing this program where one or two musicians from each orchestra would switch. In Europe, that's very common. People do that. That's not very common between an American orchestra and another American orchestra. But so we've tried this, and it's really cool to get to know some of the Gewandhaus players and the BSO players who've gone over, just come back just raving about, oh my God, what an amazing experience it was, not only culturally, but also, the playing. And of course, the Gewandhaus is the oldest orchestra in the world. So, it has its own set of history and culture there. So, I mean, this is what he wanted to do, and it's really, and we were, during the COVID period, we were supposed to do a big
Yeah.
joint thing. And,
Yeah.
I hope it continues.
They have a Bruckner cycle that's sort of similar in scope to the
Yeah.
Shostakovich cycle you guys are doing. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, amazing.
But
Yeah,
really,
and actually, they're one of their bass trombone player texted me over COVID, and he's like, can you? There's something I got over at Whole Foods, and I can't get them over here. Can you send them to me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." They were, I don't know, they were like like keto bites or something like that. Like, yeah, I'll get them for you, and I sent them. So, I mean, it's just cool, right? It's
yeah.
fun.
And really, the brass section is in its prime. I mean, top to bottom right now, really. Over,
Oh well, we yeah. I love our brass section. I'm very proud.
yeah.
I'm very proud to be a part of it.
And of course, now we spoke about your teachers, but let's talk about your teaching a little bit at NEC. How many students do you have right now there?
Oh well, now I am adjunct,
Right.
so I'm not full time. So somewhere I'll teach somewhere between 3 and 7
Yeah.
students, somewhere around there. And next year, I believe I'll have 6.
Yeah.
It could be 7. Right before COVID, it was 7. Now it's 6. And yeah, like I said before, in terms of teaching, I didn't want to teach initially, but I love it. I mean, I really love it. I just love being a part of their growth and their path. And it's I just have I have great students.
Yeah.
I mean, I love them, and we try to do uh we we meet for studio classes once a week, and we have our lessons. And over COVID, we were able to manage and learn and grow through the technology. And uh, just it's a lot of fun. It's a great place. It's a great place. And for them to come, it's and learn. Just being a teacher, just being part of, yeah, like I said, part of their growth. It's humbling, and I've learned a lot. Uh, eh, and yeah, it's just it's part. I can't imagine not teaching it now.
Yeah.
It's just part of the ecosystem. You have to you need to give back, and I have nothing to withhold. So and that's what's fun. It's like, well, and it's part of my growth.
Right.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
And they know that I don't know everything, and I'm willing to admit I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So and that's what's fun about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's the best teachers will always admit that they don't know everything, right? I mean, that's
Well, maybe a little bit further. I have further to go, I think. But anyway,
maybe. Well,
I feel that way. I
yeah.
was like, well,
So talk a little bit about your own practicing too, because in addition to like what your like daily dose of trombone is like, but also I mean like you and I have talked, and I was having some problems a couple years back, and you had that, oh, you got to get this camera, you film
oh, I
yourself,
remember that. Yeah.
and I thought, wow, but it was like so you could get out ahead of things. This wasn't, you know, you said you filmed everything you've ever played on recitals lately in the past couple of years, or
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still I'm still fixing things. I feel like some of my best progress has actually happened over COVID. I've been in this room. I've logged a lot of hours in this room. Um, and I've actually been able to take the time to
yeah,
address some things that have been problems for me for as long as I can remember. And take the way that I take breaths, what happens to my corners when I take a breath. And I still look at some of the videos that come out that the BSO puts out, because and we had a bunch of videos that came out. And I'm just looking, and I'm trying to be very specific, what I'm looking for. I don't know if anyone else is noticing this, but I notice it. And I see certain things. I'm like, ah, shit, come on, man, you can do better than this. So it's just, but I've had the time to try to fix these things, and it's gotten better. Yeah, I'm seeing progress. And I love it. So but yeah, in terms of recording, video recording, things of that nature, I've really gotten into a lot of technology. um I'm in the Apple ecosystem.
yeah,
So a lot of folks are, but but I'm using Logic a lot and learning so much about that. And teaching students how to teach themselves. And, this is what I've been doing. And, in terms of the video recording and, I've got things set up here that and I know what,
Yeah.
you really be microscopic with certain things. I enjoy that. I'm able to do that and hopefully not get too analytical. And
Yeah.
You mentioned something. There's a video out there where I learned about the laser. I actually, it's in the other room, but it's a head mounted laser, and so I've been experimenting with that. That was a big part of some of the things that I've discovered about myself. And the reason why I got into that is I had a physical therapist. Playing softball all these years, and I continue to play softball and baseball, and I've had all sorts of injuries and whatnot. I had a shoulder injury, a shoulder surgery in July during COVID, and I was like, got to get it done. I've got to hold the trombone with the left shoulder. So finally got that done. But before that, it was like I was realizing that I wasn't stable here. And if I wasn't stable here, I'm not stable here. And then when I take a breath, I would do this thing. And so, I wanted to eliminate this kind of breath. I didn't, because that changes things. It makes sense, right? Not everyone has this problem.
Yeah.
Okay. But I did. So when I was doing physical therapy, I would have to get this head mounted laser in rehabilitation of the shoulder. There would be like a map with a certain design. And you take the head mounted laser and you just draw the map. And I was like, and then to work on your focus for your head mobilization, like understanding kind of a map of where your head is, one of these things. What is the laser doing, as it's coming through? And then my therapist says, okay, I want you to keep that laser right on the target, and you're gonna take this weight. It was on a machine where you just pull this way.
Yeah.
So what happens to your head when you're doing this?
It moves.
And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, Eureka. What's happening? Am I going or whatever? It is, can I do this motion? And I'm pulling like really light weights, but initially it was like, doing something with my head. And I was like, wait, I need to keep that head still. If I keep that head still, what if I actually play with the trombone? And so we discussed it. And so I got one and I started playing with it. And it literally showed the visual, because when I would take a breath, the laser on the wall would go whiz, pew, whiz, pew, whiz, pew. Or if I'm moving my slide and I would stop too suddenly, the laser go boom, boom, or or it would just be all over the place. And I started experimenting with that with some of my students, and it was eye-opening. Now, at the same time, do you really want to be that stiff? Probably not, but it helped me in the specific situation that I needed. Then I met with a body mapping instructor who thought it was fascinating. Her name is Vanessa Mulvey. She teaches at NEC, and we started, okay, let's make circles while we play.
Yeah.
So that we can still continue to get that movement in our body, which is actually, you need movement. You can't be stuck. Okay. Right. So anyway, yeah, interesting stuff. I should put out another video with that, but,
do you ever take that to Celtics games?
Ooh, yeah. Only the green lasers. The red ones don't go so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep those away from airplanes.
Yeah,
it's not good. No.
Buildings or anything like that. Well, see, it's been awesome to have you on and kind of go through so many things I didn't know about you, even though we've known each other for a long time, and it's just tremendous what you guys are doing right now, the sound that's coming out. So
thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And thanks so much for doing it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And thanks everybody who watched tonight. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Mark. I hope to see you soon live. Grab not just a virtual beer, but an actual beer together.
Beer.
Yeah.
We'll totally do it. It'll
All
have to
right.
happen.